This is Proxy Countdown. Welcome to the big show for the week of February 2nd, 2026, alongside my tag team partner, Matt Moscardi. I'm Damian Rollis. On today's countdown, Meta gets maggier. Jabil's executive chair resigns with a consulting agreement worth 144 times more than the median worker. It's a good one. The ongoing consolidation of CEO power. Our first attendance vote rejection. And on the big vote, Matt looks at new SEC guidance and some governance fine print. Let's start with our top stories. This is several weeks worth of stories. We skipped a few shows. I looked at 128 filings at about the 700 biggest companies in America. Here are the headlines.
Light lift.
Here are the headlines. Not only is it not a light lift, but I spreadsheet it all. So if you want the spreadsheet, call someone who cares. Here are the headlines. PayPal stole HP's CEO. And they did this kind of internally by promoting their own chair, Enrique Lores, to CEO. So PayPal's chair was the HP CEO, and they decided, let's just make him our CEO. That's replacing PayPal CEO Alex Chris. And then HP was like, okay, well, we'll make our interim CEO someone from our board, Bruce Broussard. So this is an ongoing trend of people kind of. They're finding their succession planning right on their own boards. We're seeing more and more of this. Walt Disney, Parks man Josh D'Amaro has been promoted to CEO. Former CEO Bob Iger will remain as a director and senior advisor until the end of 2026, they say. We'll see if that changes. Dana Walden, the woman who was, there were suggestions might be the first female CEO of Disney, has been kind of promoted to chief creative officer. So the succession plan at Disney is final. Josh D'Amaro, the new CEO.
I call that side-moded, I think.
And just for anyone who forgets, which I'm sure is everyone, the last disastrous CEO succession plan at Disney involved promoting the head of parks, that his name was Bob Chapek, to CEO. So, Disney, known more now for being a media company, I mean, as it always has been, really. So they bypassed the media guru, Dana Walden, and went back to parks. So
yeah, but this time James Gorman picked, so
right.
It's better.
In the data analysis I made of all the 128 filings, all the new directors, all the old directors, everyone coming and going, according to my calculations, approximately 75% of the new appointments on boards are men. Does this surprise you? This seems like this is getting worse, right?
This was the trend. It was
worse than last year.
It was actually more from 2021 until about 2023. It was more women than men, and we started to see it tick back over time. And now we're at a pretty disparate ratio. It's just men getting added.
At Meta Platforms, this is an unusual one. Their former director, she was briefly director, Dina Powell McCormick. She's been appointed vice chair and president. She's best known having been the United States Deputy National Security Advisor for strategy to Donald Trump. In fact, she's also married to a Republican senator, Dave McCormick, who's the former CEO of Bridgewater Associates. So she joins Mark Zuckerberg. She's getting a golden hello of $2 million in cash and $60 million in equity. I always struggle with this role, vice chair. What is a vice chair? I don't think she's on the board. What does that even mean? What vice chair?
Is she supposed to be the replacement for Sheryl Sandberg? Is that what this is? It's a MAGA Sandberg?
I guess she's not COO. She's vice chair. Who knows?
That just seems like a mommy role than COO.
But she's obviously there because of her connections to the Trump administration. But as a little sidebar, I did find this kind of thinking about her golden hello package. $62 million in total. I like this little tidbit I found. She's also on the board of Robinhood. I mean, I'm sorry, but she's on the board of Robinhood, a charitable organization which attempts to alleviate problems caused by poverty, of all things. I mean, this just makes my head spin. Some of the other members of that board at Robinhood are Jeff Bezos' brother, Mark Bezos, DJ D. Saul, that's the CEO of Goldman Sachs, and Emeritus Director Larry Fink of BlackRock, et al. There's a bunch of more, but I just thought that was cute. They're attempting to alleviate problems caused by poverty. At Jabil, Mark Mondello was resigning as executive chair. They've signed him to a consulting agreement that lasts until January 2028. He will provide advisory and strategic services when requested for a monthly consulting fee of approximately $146,000 a month. Now, I did some of the calculations based on your typical consulting agreements at companies like this. The suggestion is that he'll be making approximately $15,000 per hour. The median employee at Jabil makes $12,000 a year. So he's already, bigger than the median employee. In fact, his consulting ratio, forget the CEO pay ratio, his consulting agreement pay ratio will be 144 to 1. When requested.
Can he hang a sign that says "Be back later" on his office window and avoid requests and still make the money? How does that work?
How about this? How about you just made a crap ton of money with our company? Congratulations. I hope you have a good retirement, rest of your life. But do know that we're going to be calling you once in a while because you made so much money here and you know a lot. And why wouldn't you give us information? I mean, it's just so. But we're not going to pay you for that. It's just the right thing to do. How about that?
I would call him every 14 minutes.
And finally, this is the new thing that I see a lot of. I don't know how to quantify it yet, but I'm calling this the consolidation of CEO power, the further consolidation of American CEO power. And this is a list of CEOs becoming chair and or former CEOs sticking around to be executive chair. Genuine Parts CEO Will Stengel will become chair following the retirement of Paul Donahue. U.S. Bancorp CEO Gunjan Kedja to become chair following the resignation of their chair. DTE Energy CEO David Slater appointed chair. Crane Company, the COO is becoming CEO. That's Alejandro Alcala, and the former CEO remains as executive chair. At Donaldson Company, the former CEO Todd Carpenter remains as executive chair, and at Amphenol, their CEO is becoming chair. So we're just seeing this great. So former CEOs are staying as executive chairs, and we're seeing a lot of independent chairs resigning, and then the CEOs taking up that role of chair. So we're going the opposite direction.
Yeah, it's fascinating because there's one cutoff. When we did the data about who gets voted out and why they get voted out, the number one reason why investors will vote out a director will be because of attendance, right? But
the only reason.
When it comes to policies, I don't think I've ever read an investor policy, a proxy voting policy, whether it's from an asset owner or an asset manager, that does not include the dissuasion of CEO chair roles. They don't always vote against it, but very clearly this is on the mind of investors, and it is a reversing trend. It is a trend where we're growing the number of CEO chair roles, which seems antithetical to
and by the way,
what we've been asking for.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not cherry picking this data. I'm not leaving out the instances where there's a new independent chair, where a CEO, a combined CEO chair role has been split, or you know what I mean, or a former CEO leaves the board.
It's also worth saying
doesn't exist. Yeah.
the number of times that a CEO becomes chair and that CEO is a woman it's none times.
Well, not
right?
this
like
list.
It doesn't not just
That's
this
true,
list,
actually.
but
That's
it's
true.
it's incredibly rare when that ever happens
Good point.
at all. I can't think of one time. I'll
Yeah.
look through the data, but the reality is, if you have 75% of new appointments are men, board expansion is largely going to men when it happens, and male CEOs are largely giving themselves chair roles again. It is an abject reversal of the last 20 years
creeping
of progress
backwards
on corporate governance.
Yeah. I'm not going to highlight any proxy cage match. There's nothing really happening yet. I'm sure they'll come.
I mean, Warner Brothers is happening, but it's a slow burn
They
now.
haven't
we talked
filed,
about it.
but we talked about it, and I don't think have they announced the director slate. I don't know if they've actually. We know who they're putting up, but we'll get to that in later
come back
shows.
to
I'm
that,
sure.
yeah.
Let's go to our vote results table. So I only focused on annual meetings where the market cap was over $1 billion, and believe it or not, we're getting going. There were actually 35 meetings at companies with a market cap over $1 billion. But this is just to say that we thought nothing was going on last year, but there's really just tumbleweeds. Out of those 35 meetings, there were 9 total shareholder proposals, and 4 of them were at Visa. Okay, so there's just no shareholder proposals. We had one victory. Jim McRitchie got a declassification vote passed at Zscaler, 51% yes. We had a couple of near misses, an act by written consent at Jabil, a special meeting rights at Micron Technology, both about 40% yes. And then at Visa, the one that really stood out to me is that the anti-ESG, anti-woke, anti-everything, the National Legal and Policy Center, which prides itself on being against everything normal, put up a shareholder proposal asking for an independent chair. They're going for they asked for an old-fashioned governance forward. I mean, Texas is trying to basically put you in jail if you say the words ESG, and now the National Legal Policy Center is. What are they doing? I don't understand this. They only got 16% of the vote. So, but that's just a new one, because usually they put up stuff like this, inclusion return on investment audit. That was put up at Intuit and also at Visa. They like to get into the real political theater of how does you wanting to hire a black person ruin the company? But does this surprise you? They're going to old-fashioned governance, independent chair at Visa.
Look, the more surprising thing is what it tells you. Independent chair is not a controversial. It's not anti-woke. It's not woke. It's not very controversial. It's very squarely in governance land. It's traditional Nell Minow, Bob Monk's school of governance, thinking. What surprises me is that it only gets 16% yes because of the filer. It's almost like investors trust the filers more than they actually read the proposals, which was our theory last year, that the proponent trumps the proposal, where we are more willing to vote with McRitchie or Trevedden because we have a long history with them of knowing what they do and trusting their analysis. And we don't have that history with National Legal and Policy Center, such as not to say that we won't have that history eventually. But the reality is, an independent chair is not controversial. I'm surprised at Visa it would get such a low vote, considering that companies now through the no action process are excluding all of these. Right? These are the ones that are appearing here are the only chances for shareholders to make it known that we want independent chairs, that we want to act by written consent, that we want to declassify the boards, because nothing's getting through. I mean, Exxon just fought an independent or excluded an independent chair proposal. So more interesting to me is who It's who's not getting the votes, because there are so few votes going through. If you read this and you said, "Oh, this is just an independent chair proposal," they didn't mention, hating trans people or detransitioning.
They might have.
Or,
I didn't read their proposal. They might have.
They don't. It's traditional. Then
I don't know if
you got to read what's there.
Honestly, I don't know if I agree with you that asking for an independent chair is a traditional thing, because I still think it would be considered woke. You're asking the company to you're basically like putting your foot into their capitalist world, right? You're telling them what's best, just like you're telling them like get rid of DEI because it diminishes your ROI, right? I mean, so I don't know if I completely agree with that. I am a little bit surprised that they're putting up something like that. I would think that to them, CEO is king, right? But anyway, let's move on. Pay. Say on pay, out of the 35 meetings, only 9 had pay over 10%. This is mostly like, big wins. Only 1 over 20%. There was a weird vote although maybe this is not even a real company, all these new made up companies, BitMine Immersion Technologies. They voted no, 25% on pay. Now, they were only voting on this. It was a $275 million pay package for their executive chair. That was a $275 million pay package over 5 years, and that was the only thing they were voting on. So it was a weird pay vote over there, and 25% said no. So
look, I gotta these new pay plans.
Yeah,
they're these multi-year plans,
only, not the CEO. Yeah,
but executive chair, but also the Muskie plans, right? The Elon Musk plans. They are increasingly, even though they're astronomical, they're ridiculously astronomical. They are increasingly mirroring sports athletes' plans, aren't they?
Yeah,
like a 5-year, $275 million package sounds exactly like what you pay, like Steph Curry in 2022. It's starting to get eerily close. Now, if only the analytics would actually catch up to who these directors are, because somehow the market doesn't actually know how to value the directors. A 20%, 25% no on a pay package that's $275 million over 5 years at BitMine Immersion Technologies for the executive chair.
Yeah.
Seems like somebody didn't read the fine print. But eventually, it seems like where we're going.
And then let's get to the director votes. Again, I'll leave the bigger story for the end. There are only let's start with the biggest story. At Jabil, back to Jabil. John Plant and Tiger Tyagarajan both were voted out. 84% no and 70% no, respectively. Do you want to guess why they were voted out?
Oh, it's attendance, right? Like it's the only thing.
It's attendance. So we're still in that land. I don't know why. Again, like I don't know why that's an accepted barometer of performance and nothing else is. In fact, I don't even know why that's the only objective criteria they use, but it is somehow, which suggests that if they were to start to adopt some free float data, maybe they'd vote out more directors, because they seem to like this data point. But
well, just to be clear, what this data point says, it says they were in the room. That's all it says. Yeah. It is very, very objective. You're either at the meeting or you're not at the meeting. So give props where props are due. Now, but if that is your criteria, that's not a high bar.
Now the story is not complete yet because of their dumb resignation policy. We're still in limbo land. So the board has 90 days. I should say the nominating and governance committee gets to accept or reject the resignations. They have 90 days. No decision has been made yet. I keep checking their filings.
Are those odds on Kalshi, whether or not they're going to step off the board?
They should be. Now, the great thing is that Tiger is actually on that committee. So he's actually on the committee that decides. And they didn't actually
recuse himself.
They didn't even mention if he's going to recuse himself because nobody cares. That's the problem about all this. They don't even care.
He will. It won't be a big deal.
Yeah. The other two people on this board, one of them is the lead director, Stephen Raymond, who's been on the board for 30 years. So something tells me that he's probably not going to care about any of this. Moving on. Other than that, we only had 15 other directors that were even over 10%. In fact, only a couple were over 20%. Scott Darling from Zscaler. But let's talk about the director of the week, and that is Robert V. Vital. He got 26% no vote at Bell Ring Brands, and he got 17% no votes at Energizer Holdings. So a double.
Wow.
And here's why. Because and maybe this is the mistake of the companies, and my hat is off to the investors who are actually reading these proxy statements, because both of these companies actually mentioned the overboarding policy. So here's the thing: Robert Vital is a CEO at I think it's called Post. It's called Post. He's also the executive chair at Bellring, which is a subsidiary of Post, or at least it used to be. They split. He's also on the board of Energizer. I think this is just an overboarding thing, right? But both of the companies made the point of making an excuse for this in their proxy statements, and that maybe if they hadn't pointed it out, no one would have noticed. But they both were like, "This guy is fine. Don't worry about him." And that's what caused this vote against. Although it's not enough.
I'm sure it's just an ISS class.
It's not enough of a vote to get rid of him. But I've made this point all along. I mean, if you're at 17%, 26%, I mean, this is basically a vote against. I mean, this is a. So I don't know, but nothing will come of this. But I hats off to Robert Vital for having two of the highest votes in one period. That's all for the meetings. Not really much to say, honestly. And the only other thing I'll add before I hand it off to you is that I'm constantly tracking upcoming meetings at companies with a market cap of above $1 billion. We had a bunch this week, but only 6 next week that I can find, including Rockwell Automation, PTC, J&J Snack Foods. And I will say this, that there are still no shareholder proposals to report on. None. Zero. Big zero. That's it.
Uplifting.
Big vote. Matt Moscardi, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm just going to keep this relatively brief. There's some big governance news in January that we hadn't quite talked about. First is the SEC effectively killing exempt solicitations. They're restricting now the filing of exempt solicitations to investors who have $5 million worth of shares or more. And the other big news was actually part of a speech by someone at the SEC, Brian Daly, who suggested that proxy voting might not actually be a fiduciary duty, particularly for index funds, and who maybe shouldn't vote at all, was one of his suggestions. And he did plug AI as a solution for proxy voting. I did some back of the envelope calculations. Half of U.S. companies do not even have an investor with over $5 million in shares. Those are small and micro cap companies, in which case no one can file an exempt solicitation at all. It wouldn't even be possible because they wouldn't meet the base criteria, and they didn't seem to account for that anywhere. But it does not seem clear that you could file. The 23% of U.S. companies are totalitarian, meaning they're controlled or effectively controlled. So voting on them or filing exempt solicitations wouldn't even matter. It wouldn't make a difference. And the majority of owners, obviously, we know, are BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. They have roughly 20 to 30% of every company in aggregate. The number of exempt solicitations they've filed in the last 10 years is 0. So 20 to 30% of every share never files an exempt solicitation. Taken together, what you end up with is roughly 25% of every company vote could be non-votes, because the large players are largely index investors, and if they don't have to vote and pay stewardship teams, they're unlikely to do it. And that same percentage would actually, they're the ones who would have met a threshold to actually file an exempt solicitation at all. Exempt solicitations, they actually help investors get information about shareholder proposals which there aren't really any of anymore. You're tracking the number is basically zero.
We haven't seen the big companies yet, but we'll see.
But the unintended consequence of this is there are a number of companies that have bylaw amendment thresholds that require, Emerson Electric, for one, has put up, and I'm going to cover this in a minute, over the last 7 years, they've put up 4 or 5 times themselves declassifying the board, but it requires 85% of all outstanding shares to vote.
Yeah.
And it's not 85% of shares that vote. It's 85% of all outstanding shares must vote.
I can't believe how stupid that is.
And then in order for it to even qualify. So if 20 to 30% of every company's shares do not vote anymore because Brian Daly suggests it's not their fiduciary duty, even if 15%, that means any bylaw amendment is literally impossible to pass. Investors no longer have any control over the bylaws of the companies that they own. So there's no more exempt solicitations, no more bylaw amendments. And you pair that with the fact that engagement's been chilled and proxy advisor use is now considered collusive and investors are forced into mandatory arbitration. And you effectively have one investor type who can actually do anything at any company. And it's activists, rich activists. That's it.
Right.
That's the only investor type speaking for not just minority shareholders, but all shareholders, any shareholder. Yeah. That's what we're left with. And activists can't do that at, there's 10,000 global companies. There's 2,500 in the US that are, on the small and up side. And you've got 600 large cap. There's not enough activists on earth to cover all of them. And there's not enough capital on earth to make changes at all of them. So we are now in a deep chill of governance, and we are relying very, very, very heavily on activists to sort of get it done.
Let's not forget that a lot of these activists they're there to self-enrich anyway. It's not like they're trying to they're not all trying to make positive governance
it's short
changes.
Term. Yeah, it's short term.
Some of them are, to their credit. Some of them are.
Occasionally, but it does mean that investors need to start thinking differently because the only vote left that they have is on directors. That's the only place.
Let's do it.
We covered on our Business Pants, our other podcast, the UK Investment Association put out a paper that basically said everyone focuses too much on the vote, not enough on engagement when it comes to stewardship. But the vote is the only place we have left to actually focus on now. Now is the time to focus entirely on the vote.
All right.
So that's the news roundup. And then I caught some fine print in the last few AGMs.
Let's do it.
That I thought was a little bit funny or a little curious.
I love funny fine print.
I don't know if it's funny. I mean, it's funny to one person who's,
me.
Yeah, you. First up, Tyson Foods.
Ooh, good start.
Just had their AGM. It's a dual class company. It's entirely controlled by the Tyson family. In fact, I think the entire Tyson family is on this board.
Even the ones who get arrested routinely.
Does not seem to matter. There is a person on the board named Les Ballage.
Okay.
I'm quoting from their filings. Les Ballage, independent director, as of record date December 8th, 2025. He's considered independent. Les Ballage, this is his bio. Les Ballage, 68, is a private investor with broad experience who served as executive vice president and general counsel of the company from 1999 to 2004.
Yeah.
That was under John Tyson, who's the current CEO and chair. Mm-hmm. He began assisting the company with legal matters in 1982.
Wow.
That was under John Tyson's daddy.
Wow.
The original Tyson. Ballage has served on multiple boards. The board believes Mr. Ballage's significant financial and legal expertise and service and advice to boards and his long association with the company qualify him to serve.
I mean, really, the company and the family. I mean, imagine how many golf trips they've taken together.
It's just important to say that this is a man who's been with his family since 1982, and they actually consider that a qualification for him to be on the board, his association with the company. In the same filing, Mr. Ballage was previously determined to be non-independent due to his service as one of the trustees of the Donald J. Tyson Revocable Trust.
Wow.
Mr. Ballard stepped down as trustee effective November 13th, 2025.
Oh, so only a few months ago.
After which the board determined he qualifies as independent under New York Stock Exchange rules.
To be fair to Tyson Foods, this is all true. I mean, NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, SEC, they let you get away with this stuff. It's not like they're lying. They let you. This is a loophole.
I love the depths at which they literally say, because he's so close to the Tysons for so long, that's what qualifies him to be on the board. And then in the next breath, they say he's independent.
Yeah.
I just like that juxtaposition. That made me laugh.
That's insane. That's the definition of insanity. His independence.
Speaking of Tysons, John R. Tyson, the one who's had some trouble with alcohol, 35 years old. He was the CFO.
And the law, more importantly. Yeah, go ahead.
And the law was the CFO of the company. He's on the board as of May 8th, 2025.
They brought him back. They fired him.
They fired him from CFO.
And they brought him back for a director.
I didn't know. I didn't see this in the 8K, but I saw this in the proxy. Mr. John R. Tyson appointed to the board on May 8th, 2025, and following his appointment to the board, he remains an employee of the company.
Yeah, we actually did cover that, but it was vague, and we didn't know how to. We didn't know what that meant.
So in the proxy, he has no title, but it does include that he gets total summary comp of $846,000 a year.
For what? We don't know.
We have no idea what his role is with the company.
My guess is that according to the Tyson family, that's the living wage it takes to be a member of the Tyson family, right? Because you need cash, you need health, you need all that stuff.
So he's still there. He's still on the board. He's still making decisions for the Tysons. Next company I saw, that's Emerson Electric.
Yeah,
I already mentioned. The fact that they needed 85% of total voting power. So in 2013, 2020, 2024, 2025, the board itself has put up articles of incorporation, restated articles of incorporation, eliminating the classified board. You need 85% of total voting power to actually hit.
I hate this.
You'll be happy to know the result in 2025, 98.34% of investors are in favor.
That's almost as much as like a director vote.
They are in favor of declassifying this board. Yeah. They love the idea. 98.34%. But only 74% of the 566 million shares showed up.
Well, so why do you think they keep doing this then? I mean, they know they're never going to get to that threshold. What are they waiting for?
They've never. So when Musk wanted to pass his pay package, he went out and advertised. But they're never going to advertise for this. And I also noted the votes against are slightly less than the number of shares held by the insiders.
If we have any listeners that are as smart as like an Ann Lipton type, can you reach out and tell me why can't they draft a law, like a rule or a law to circumvent this? Like why can't there be enough, like in our American legal system, precedence is enough, right? To define law. Why can't the precedence of this high of an affirmative vote after this many years be enough to affect the company's bylaw? Like, someone reach out and tell me why there's nothing that can be done about this, because this is absurd. Honestly, it's absurd.
I mean, I think it's cute that you think an Ann Lipton listens to this show.
No, I didn't say Ann Lipton. I said someone as smart as Ann Lipton.
Yeah, that's also cute. I have two more that I want to talk to you about.
I love this fine print. I wish you did this all the time.
Franklin Resources.
Yeah.
This one is fine print that's fun with charts.
I love charts.
Okay, so in their proxy, they have a chart. They have a number of charts, right? All these proxies are full of charts. And the first chart that I noticed was director tenure. The director tenure chart shows the average tenure is 6 years.
Okay,
but when you read the fine print in the chart, it says average independent director tenure. So those are not the insiders. These are strictly the independent directors.
Okay.
At Franklin Resources. They did that because the Franklin Resource family, the founding family, is on the board, and the chair and CEO has been there since 1979, right? So that average would get way skewed. So they show you 6-year average for the independent directors. But when you're talking about diversity, they needed to add in the niece of the founder, or else the women count looks bad. So in the overall board diversity chart, they show 27% female, 3
Jennifer
women.
Johnson, is that who it is?
And it includes Jennifer Johnson. They don't include her in tenure.
That's
they
outlandish.
do include her in diversity, right?
That's outlandish.
So I guess tenure is supposed to be about independence, and so is diversity. Diversity is supposed to be some like brute force way of showing diversity of thought. You have people from different backgrounds. But in order to hit that cool looking threshold of 3 women, they needed to add in someone they discounted in the tenure.
I hope we have listeners from the National Legal Policy Center, or one of those anti. I don't even know what they are. Anti-woke, anti-American. They're anti-everything, right? I mean, anti-women, anti-black people, anti-gay, anti-trans. It's exhausting. I hope they're listening to this show, or I hope someone tells them about this, because it says here in Franklin Resources that you're pointing out this stat about demographics. It says that these 3 directors identify as female. That sounds pretty woke to me, to identify, right? Because God determines whether you're male or female. So National Legal Policy Center, you should come hard at this company.
At the word identify?
Come hard at them. Really, honestly, what is the return on investment for identifying as female at Franklin Resources? Come at them hard.
I prefer, if you're going to come at anything, you come at this next chart, chart pair.
I got off track
because the skills matrix, they need you to know that they have AI expertise on the board. They've got it covered. They have a list of skills. They have 2 of 11 directors have AI listed as a skill, so they've got AI covered.
Even that's debatable, whether they actually skilled in that or not. But because that's self-identification of a skill, right?
So yes, it's totally self-identification, and they don't give you, like some do, a matrix of with your name and then the skill that you have, right? Instead, they do the bios and they put the skills in the bio section. So you actually have to read the fine print of the bios to see who has what skill. And just in case you read that, because I did, the 2 people with the AI skill are Gregory Johnson and Jennifer Johnson, the niece and nephew of the family that has worked at this company for decades. The executive chair and the chief executive officer of the company are the only ones with AI experience. Their backgrounds have nothing to do with tech, nothing to do with computer programming, nothing to do with AI. Their full-time employment has been at these companies. Finance. All they've done is finance their entire lives.
That's incredible.
And they wrote artificial intelligence.
I'm sorry, but that's a lie. I mean, that is like manipulation.
Of course it is.
That is a very, I know it's a very small form of it, but that's essentially, it's manipulation. It's like market manipulation. If anyone is investing in companies and looking at these skill sets and trying to make decisions based on, we're only going to invest in companies that have AI experience on the board, blah, 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 they're lying. I'm looking at Jennifer Johnson's bio right now. Where? Anyway.
The fact that they used ChatGPT once does not qualify as AI experience, skills, or key attribute. Look,
and if I'm wrong about that,
attribute.
If I'm wrong, show us why. Show us why you think they have AI experience. If I'm wrong about that.
And finally, I wanted to give you some fine print from an upcoming election. Apple, February 26th, coming up. Big one, big election.
Now we're talking.
They are allowing one shareholder proposal, I believe, from one of the anti-woke groups. But I'm not talking about shareholder proposals here. I'm talking about something that I saw. Here's what they wrote in 2024. We covered this on the show. Under the board's retirement policy, directors generally may not stand for re-election after attaining age 75. In consideration of the transition of the role of chief financial officer from Luca Maestri to Kevin Parekh on January 1st, 2025, significant recent refreshment in board composition, and the value of retaining directors who have developed deep insight in the company during their tenure, the board determined that it would be in the best interest of Apple and its shareholders to ask Ron Sugar, the chair of the audit committee, to stand for re-election in 2025, although he previously attained the age of 75. So notice what they said there. We are asking Ron Sugar to stick around because he knows the company, but mostly because our CFO is changing. He's the head of audit, and we need some board guidance. Now it is 2025, 1 year later.
Yeah.
Here is where they don't even bother gaslighting investors because investors don't read the fine print. Quote, in the context of this year's annual meeting nominations, the board determined that it would be in the best interest of Apple and its shareholders to ask Art Levinson, the chair of the board, and Ron Sugar, the chair of the audit committee, to stand for re-election and to waive for each of them its guideline under which directors generally may not stand for re-election after attaining age 75.
Do you need 98% of the outstanding shares to vote to change that fake
But I don't
age
know.
limit?
In 2024, they made an
Apple.
excuse
Yeah.
for keeping Ron Sugar around. In 2025, they didn't even bother. They just said Art Levinson also hit the age. We're not adding any new directors at all. Forget it. We're just let him stand for it. No one cares. Forget it. So investors, if you pay attention to the company's own guidelines, please let Apple know it's not really, don't bother. Just get rid of the guideline.
I was going to say, what is Apple doing? Why don't they just get rid of the guideline?
Why bother having the guideline? Also,
Apple, it's easy
Apple,
on your keyboard. And I know you're probably not using a Windows keyboard, but I'm going to assume you are. Alt-Shift-5. It's a strike through. It strikes through the text. Just do that in all your policies. Get rid of the stupid age limit.
It works pretty good. It's pretty
Stop
easy.
gaslighting. Stop changing.
And then you don't
your
have to
mind.
pretend that it's because CFO Luca Maestri just left.
That's fun. That's a flex. That's a funny. Are you done talking about Apple? You have anything to say?
I'm done talking about everything.
I have to go back to Franklin Resources because I just love this so much. I might allow Jennifer Johnson to have artificial intelligence skill. Look, 20 years ago, from 2003 to 2005, she was the chief information officer of the company. Granted, it was 20 years ago, and I don't think they had the concept of artificial intelligence
20
then.
years ago?
But
she was on Windows 2000.
And she's been involved with the operations and technology of the company as executive vice president. It's possible. I'll give her a pass. I'm going to give you a pass, Jennifer. Okay? But her brother, Gregory, the dope, he's a certified public accountant. He has nothing in his bio that would suggest. I mean, he's the chair of the San Francisco Giants, a baseball team. Does that count?
No, he's related to a woman who once looked
in his bio.
at an AI.
And not only does he have artificial intelligence skill, he also has technology and cyber as part of his. What are we doing here? That's a lie. I'm sorry.
The thing that really
I
gets
love
me,
this. I love this.
The thing that really gets me is what they call it a key attribute.
Yes.
Do we understand what key and attribute mean?
What are we doing here?
Like,
what are we doing?
Key is something that's core, fundamental. This is something they know deeply.
Nothing. He has nothing in his bio. Nothing.
This is why the free float data has an entire knowledge database. We did that because
what a great
we
gaslight.
knew that on any one of these skills matrices, they make stuff up. If anything, Greg Johnson has plenty of finance background.
Called out, Greg.
Accounting
Stop the
background,
ruse, Greg.
Fabulous.
Stop it.
Jennifer Johnson, you might say she has tech.
She might have it. She might.
You might say she has tech. 20 years ago, before ChatGPT existed and AI and large language models even were a thing.
But maybe she's some kind of a genius and she just stays up to date with everything. Yeah.
Maybe.
Greg?
Maybe.
No.
But we're talking about a key attribute in the modern age of AI. We're not talking about somebody who once had to set up a server in Windows 2000. That's not what we're doing. So these skills matrices, you really need like a standardized knowledge database, which is why FreeFloat built one. But these are really spurious, and they don't even care about lying directly to your face. That's all I got.
They are funny, though. That's the proxy countdown for the week of February 2nd, 2026. Join us maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks. We're getting there.
We're getting close. Yeah, we're getting close.
When we jump back into the alternative democracy pool, forever on the lookout for shareholder shenanigans, dopey directors. The perfect case of a dopey director is one who lies about. I mean, why would you lie about that anyway?
Attributes.
Why would you
lie
about that?
If you were to describe your key attributes, what would they be?
I mean, I might lie about saying yeah, I ran a marathon once. Yeah, sure. But you're gonna put in a filing with the SEC that you're an expert in artificial intelligence. That seems like that's a big fat lie. I mean,
that's like you went running around the streets in your neighborhood to lose 5 pounds, and you did it for a week and then quit. And you write down one of my key attributes is running.
Marathon racing.
It's unbelievable.
Forever on the lookout for shareholder shenanigans, dopey director, scandalous CEO, pay ratios, and wayward band-aids. Let's get out of here.